What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you an update for Avowed, which just recently dropped its patch 1.5 a couple days ago from the time of this video, and seeing how that particular patch actually addressed some criticisms I had with my initial review back in February, I thought it might be a good time to just jump back into it, take a look at what has changed since launch, and go over some future plans while we are at it. This most recent patch does things like add new abilities for the fighter and ranger tree, makes the game Steam Deck verified, alongside a host of other changes, and so we've got plenty to talk about. But to sort of start at the beginning, since Avowed's launch back in February, it has received, I would say, a generally positive reception. It certainly wasn't a blockbuster or anything, and it seems to have landed where they expected it to, with mostly positive reviews over on Steam. I myself enjoyed the game, especially since I'm very fond of the world it takes place in, the world of Aora, or Pillars of Eternity, which is one of the main reasons I was personally excited for it. But even in my own review, I had a few complaints, for instance, fighter and ranger trees not being as fleshed out as magic, as an example, things getting lost in the translation from isometric CRPG to obviously more of an action-adventure. But since all the way back then, they have released a variety of patches aimed a fair bit at community feedback on things that the game could improve, as an example, the typical stuff like bug fixes, quest fixes, that kind of thing. They even added arachnophobia mode as an example. But I will say none of them are really what I would have considered a major update, personally. Unsurprisingly then, their first big patch after the initial release, patch 1.2.3, was mostly just fixes and the like. However, it did come with a few balance changes and some adjustments really to companion AI to make them generally a bit more useful. And that was followed on from about a week later on February 27th, which was pretty much just more fixes and adjustments. Things really started to get going with patch 1.3 though. This is where they started making more notable changes, and this was in March at this point. So straight away, patch 1.3 added additional talent points, basically giving you more room to work with in terms of making your build. It also allowed you to adjust the heads-up display a little bit by allowing you to adjust both the opacity of it, or the transparency, as well as offering just a complete toggle for it entirely that just straight up let you turn it off. This patch also included the ability to fully customize controller keybinds, meaning that you could rebind the entire thing, or even allow you to adjust the field of view for the third-person camera mode. So some good stuff in there. After that, the next big patch was in May, a couple months later, via patch 1.4. This is also when they dropped their roadmap for the rest of the year, but patch 1.4 included things like the arachnophobia mode that I mentioned, effectively turning the spiders in the game just into round floating orbs. This is also the patch that updated the way critters worked, allowing you to kill and loot them all. And even more, granular stuff like the ability to wait at your party camp to cycle the day or night, which the day and night cycle was always there, and it was just, we're kind of passed really slowly most of the time, and this allows you to, of course, just manually move that along. Some convenient stuff like marking all of the chests on the map, smaller bits of world reactivity, like for instance arrows would just fall and hit the ground type of stuff. They also changed how water reacts to you hitting it, so for instance if you were to shoot into it like with one of your pistols or the arquebus, it will of course splash and ripple accordingly. They increased the money rewards for main quests and even some exploration, just giving you more money overall to work with. Convenience stuff like companions getting more skill points to just be more useful in combat. And patch 1.4 also introduced a pretty large amount of fixes. Mostly tiny stuff really, like adjusting the distance at which companions sort of stray away from you. That brings us to patch 1.5, which was the next update, which just happened on July 15th. And this is actually, I would say, the game's biggest patch to date. Kind of already went over some of that stuff, but let's start with the Steam Deck verification. I did actually check this out to see how it was playing on the Steam Deck, and while I would say that I can see why it is verified now, you get a solid frame rate, you don't have to do anything, everything is legible, etc. I did want to point out that the graphics take a huge hit here. Like, this is definitely, in a state that it could be played, but man, does the actual faces, especially on NPCs, just become a blurry mess to the point of barely being able to make out their facial features at some points, which I imagine is probably the sacrifice they had to make to get this running well and properly here. So that Steam Deck verification definitely came at a cost, frankly. Speaking of cost, though, probably worth a mention that looking into how this patch kind of made the game work for people, I did notice a few reports of people having issues with the patch, things like stuttering and things afterwards, etc. It doesn't seem to be particularly widespread, but definitely seemed prominent enough to point out. The second big thing patch 1.5 added is, of course, those abilities that I mentioned for the Ranger and Fighter. These were broken up into, of course, active and passive abilities. So for the Ranger, you've got the addition of things like Shadow Step, which effectively lets you teleport behind an enemy, Fan of Daggers to throw out poisoned daggers, Smoke Bomb, which utilizes some scaling off of both the damage and elemental type of your currently equipped throwable, or, the grenades you're using. You can, of course, kind of use those to match up with what the Smoke Bomb is doing as an ability, which I thought was kind of neat, alongside a Frost Trap as well. Now on the passive side of things, they get Concussive Shot, which allows you to shoot a weak spot on an enemy, which will then cause them to take increased stun for melee damage if you're looking to mix up ranged and melee. Sharpshooter, which increases the weak spot damage you deal as you continue to hit the target there, and then Deadly Poison, which allows them to, of course, just deal more poison damage to enemies. Fighters, on the other hand, got things like Driving Kick, which is just a powerful kick you can do to enemies. It does break through blocks. It will also push enemies back, and then upgrades can even cause it to do explosive area of effect damage. They've also got Barbaric Smash. If this ability kills an enemy, you absorb their current stun meter, and it then allows you to apply it to a secondary enemy. They've also got things like Deep Breath, which allows them to refund stamina, or Reviving Exhortation, which allows them to revive allies in combat, which I thought was pretty neat. And the new passives for Fighter include Dual Wield Mastery, which gives you an upgraded attack on stunned enemies, Adrenaline, which increases the damage you deal as your health falls, on top of giving you a way to cheat death if you were to receive a killing blow, Bloodlust, which increases bleed damage on enemies, and then finally Vanguard, which just gives you a chance to negate incoming damage outright. To go along with some of these new additional abilities and things, they've also added new unique items to every single area, roughly 3 to 5 per area, so there's even some new equipment to mess around with. They've also changed enemy behavior in the sense that now they will actually use a few of your player abilities, things like Blizzard, Taunt, Tanglefoot, things like that, so basically some of the spells and abilities you have access to, and some enemies can even throw up barriers to things like physical or magic damage. They also added some quality of life stuff here as well, like for instance, in the cooking menu, it will tag the things you've already cooked, which is probably very specifically to help you with the achievement for cooking everything, I would guess. They've also given you the ability to add custom map markers, which was great. And much of the rest of it from there was really just, of course, the usual bug fixes and things like that. Now, when you pull all of that stuff together collectively, roughly 5 months since its initial launch, I think Avowed has steadily improved on a lot of aspects, especially since some of these things just straight up address criticisms that the game has received. So in that sense, they've been fairly responsive to feedback. Now, I will say I still don't love the $70 price tag at the same time, but that aside, let's talk about the future a little bit. So there is at least one more major update coming this year that is going to bring New Game Plus, Photo Mode, a new weapon type, as well as the ability to change your appearance out in the world, alongside new character presets and just overall visual customization for things like the godlike features. So there are certainly still some modes and things to come. I think New Game Plus specifically will actually be pretty nice. But that is what Obsidian has currently committed to. Now, there still hasn't been any word of DLC, and I'm not really especially hopeful that it's actually going to get any, mind you. I feel like if it was, they probably would have said something by now, so I wouldn't say it's impossible by any means, but it would certainly be unexpected at this juncture, which I do think is a bit of a shame, in the sense that I think one thing this game would really benefit from is more expansions on, what you can do, more content, things like that, and that's obviously something like DLC-sized content updates would actually be able to bring. So to sort of wrap this video up, overall I would say Avowed is steadily getting better via a host of free updates that have added much requested features to the game and just sort of slowly built on that initial base. And while I don't think any of these individual updates are particularly revolutionary or bound to change anyone's mind you, I do still think they are good updates. But I think at this point, the only thing that would likely change people's mind is something like a DLC that was just incredibly good. And given how they haven't said anything on that front, I think it would be safe to assume that that is unlikely. So with all of that said, I certainly hope you enjoyed this update on Avowed, but by all means, let me know what you think about this down in the comment section below, which of course means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.